special report today. In addition, it's going to be a two-part series, part 1 and part 2 on the WEF, the World Economic Forum. Yes, it does kick off today in Davos, Switzerland, and I'm here to expose the truth not only behind, well, what the association is all about, how they're trying to take over the world, as well as looking ahead to how things are changing. Who's involved in the changes that are happening, especially in Canada. Across our great country, we have been embedded with individuals that are all part of the World Economic Forum. We have a lot to discuss. This is going to be eye-opening for some. Some of you think conspiracy theory, not necessarily the case anymore. We're going to let you know exactly what the World Economic Forum is all about.
Davos will bring key global leaders from all parts of society together in person and look at the consequences and repercussions for government policies and business strategies.
There is no business as usual. We just need to come together and also then move into uncharted territories, but with these principles that I just mentioned. And I'm sure that the World Economic Forum, with 2,500 participants in Davos, also from all walks of life, can, in the areas that we have now mentioned, make a difference. And we'll make sure that companies also then commit to contribute in a positive way when it comes to the digital divide, when it comes to climate, when it comes to loss of biodiversity, when it comes also to investing in skills, upskilling, right skilling, and to get a much more inclusive recovery.
Are you too busy to see what's happening here in North America? Maybe you've heard about this and thought, oh, just conspiracy theories. Well, let's be clear here that North America, both Canada and the United States, with the exception of Mexico, is in a state of moving toward a fourth industrial revolution. Now, what does that mean? There are so many things. Now, this is being brought on by none other than the one and only Klaus Schwab, leader of the World Economic Forum, and other world leaders, of course, associating themselves of great nations. Plus, there are many others already implanted by the World Economic Forum that continue throughout the ranks, like Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland. We'll get to them. The fundamentals of freedom are changing, and not in a good way, I can tell you that. A one world government. How about a one world healthcare? A one world currency? Now ask yourself, how could this possibly happen? I'll wait. No, hold on a minute. No, I won't wait. Let me explain this and make it clear. This is a tough conversation. A lot of people don't wish to accept the details. Now, according to WikiLeaks, the World Economic Forum, or WEF, is an international, non-governmental, and lobbying organization based in Colony Canton of Geneva, Switzerland. It was founded on the 24th of January back in 1971 by German engineer and economist Klaus Schwab. The foundation, which is mostly funded by its 1,000 member companies, typically global enterprises with more than $5 billion US in turnover, as well as public subsidies, views its own mission as improving the state of the world by engaging business, political, academic, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. The WEF is mostly known for its annual meeting at the end of January in Davos. Not this year. It starts today, as I said earlier. A mountain resort in the Eastern Alp region of Switzerland is being converted into tropical paradise. The meeting brings together some 3,000 paying members and selected participants, among which are investors, business leaders, political leaders, economists, celebrities, journalists. Now, for up to 5 days, they're ready to discuss global issues, all for you, across 500 sessions. Next to Davos, the organization convenes regional conferences in locations across Africa, East Asia, Latin America, and India. Plus, it holds 2 additional annual meetings in China and the United Arab Emirates. It further produces a series of reports that engages its members in sector-specific initiatives and provides a platform for leaders from selected stakeholder groups to collaborate on all kind of, multiple projects and initiatives. The forum suggests that a globalized world is best managed by a self-selected coalition of multinational corporations, governments, and civil society, which it expresses through initiatives like, you've heard of this name, the Great Reset, and the Global Redesign. It seems periods of global instability, such as the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008, plus the COVID pandemic-19, were windows of opportunity to intensify their programmatic efforts. Now, the World Economic Forum and its annual meeting in Davos have received lots of criticism over the years. Challenges raised about the conference and the WEF include the organization's corporate capture of, global and democratic institutions, plus institutional whitewashing initiatives. You've seen a lot of that in the last 2 years, haven't you? The public cost of security, the organization's tax-exempt status, unclear decision processes and membership criteria, plus a lack of financial transparency and the environmental footprint of its annual meetings. As a reaction of criticism, within Swiss society itself, the Swiss federal government decided back in February of 2021 to reduce its annual contributions to the WEF. Surprising, since that's Klaus's home base. Now, since 1988, Klaus and his team of Nazis, yes, I will call them that, have been coercing young global leaders to participate in this evil organization. Now, why would I say that? Well, let's take a look back on what the past 34 years of meetings were all about. Let's put that up, and let's run that list for you now. (1988), the new state of the world economy. 1989, key developments in the 90s, implications for global business. 1990, competitive cooperation in a decade of turbulence. 1991, the new direction for global leadership. 1992, global cooperation and mega competition. 1993, rallying all the forces for global recovery. 94 was redefining the basic assumptions of the world economy. 96 was leadership for challenges beyond growth. 96, sustaining globalization. 97, building the network society. In 1998, managing volatility and priorities for the 21st century. 1999, responsible globality, managing the impact of globalization. In 2000, new beginnings, making a difference. 2001, sustaining growth and bridging the divides, a framework for our global future. 2002, leadership in fragile times. That one was held in New York City instead of Davos. 2003, January, building trust. 2004, partnering for security and prosperity. 2005, taking responsibility for tough choices. 2006, the creative imperative. 2007, shaping the global agenda and shifting power equation. 2008, the power of collaborative innovation. 2009, shaping the post-crisis world. Post-crisis world? Is that where we are now? 2010, improve the state of the world, rethink, redesign, rebuild. 2011, norms for the new reality. Maybe that's where we are. 2012, the Great Transformation, shaping new models. 2013, resilient dynamism. 2014, the reshaping of the world, consequences for society, politics, and business. 2015, new global context. 2016, mastering the Fourth Industrial Revolution. 2017, responsive and responsible leadership. I call it dictatorship. 2018, creating a shared future in a fractured world. You fractured it. 2019, Globalization 4.0, shaping a global architecture in the age of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which Klaus Schwab probably will not be alive for anyway. Old bugger. 2020, stakeholders for a cohesive and sustainable world. 2021, it was canceled as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. And here we are today in 2022, going back, looking at what they're going to do to us next. Some 3,000 individual participants joined the 2020 annual meeting today in Davos. Countries with the most attendees include the United States, with 674 participants. Among the attendees were heads of state or government. There were cabinet ministers from Canada, our prime minister, ambassadors, heads or senior officials of international organizations, including George Soros. And I want to make this clear that both Donald Trump, ex-president of the United States, and Obama, and let's go back to George Bush, have all been there. Business accounts for most of the participants' backgrounds, with 1,595 conference attendees to be exact, with the remaining seats shared between government, 364 to be exact, NGOs, 246. They had 234 press there as well. Now, academia, which had been the basis of the first annual conference in 1971, had been marginalized to the smallest participant group of 183 attendees. Don't think they're in your schools. That's coming up too. Now, back in January of 2017, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, or CEPI, a global initiative to fight epidemics, was launched by the WEF in Davos. The internationally funded initiative aims at securing vaccine supplies for global emergencies and pandemics, and to reach new vaccines for tropical diseases that are now more menacing. The project is funded by private and governmental donors, with an initial investment of $460 million US from the governments of Germany, Japan, and Norway, plus the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That's right. Well, Billy and Melinda, they got their hands in everything. And there's also their company, the Wellcome Trust. Gee, sounds kind of odd, just a few years prior to pandemic, that they're all coming together. Also in 2017, the World Economic Forum launched its Fourth Industrial Revolution for the Earth Initiative, a collaboration among the WEF, Stanford University, and PwC, funded through the MAVA Corp Foundation. That's MAVA Foundation. In 2018, the WEF announced as well that one project within this initiative was to be the Earth Biogenome Project, the aim of which is to sequence the genomes of every organism on Earth, and a pandemic would surely take care of this massive task. Frightening, isn't it? Now, moving on to the Global Shapers community, an initiative of World Economic Forum select young leaders below 30 years old based on their achievement as well as their potential to be change agents in the world going forward. Global Shapers develop and lead their city-based hubs to implement social justice projects that advocate the mission of the World Economic Forum. It's everywhere. They've infiltrated everywhere, period, even your schools. Some critics see the WEF's increasing focus on activism areas such as environmental protection and social entrepreneurship as a strategy to disguise the true plutocratic goals of this organization, which is a society that is ruled and controlled by people of great wealth or income, also known as oligarchs. According to the forum founder Klaus Schwab, the intention of the project is to reconsider the meaning of capitalism and capital. While not abandoning capitalism, he proposes to change and possibly move on from some aspects of it, including neoliberalism and free market fundamentalism. Now, the formation of a detached elite, which is often co-labeled, yes, the Davos man, Justin Trudeau looking, sounding, poser, refers to a global group whose members view themselves as completely international. The term refers to people who have little need for national loyalty, view national boundaries as obstacles, and see national governments as residues from the past whose only useful function is to facilitate the elite's global operations. Now, according to political scientist Samuel P. Huntington, who is credited with inventing his 2004 article, Dead Souls, the denationalization of the American elite, Huntington argues that this international perspective is a minority elitist position, not shared by the nationalist majority of the people. The Transitional Institute describes the World Economic Forum's main purpose as being to function as a socializing institution for the emerging global elite. Globalization's mafiocracy of bankers, industrialists, oligarchs, technocrats, and politicians. They promote common ideas and serve common interests, their own, only their own. Now, since 2009, the WEF has been working on a project called Global Redesign Initiative, or GRI, which proposes a transition away from intergovernmental decision-making towards a system of multi-stakeholder governance. What does that all mean? Well, according to the Transnational Institute, or TNI, the forum is hence planning to replace a recognized democratic model with a model where a self-selected group of stakeholders make the decision on behalf of the people. Now that is a dictatorship. Some critics have seen the WEF's attention to goals like environmental protection and social entrepreneurship as mere window dressing, much like they did to the storefronts in Davos this week, to disguise its true plutocratic nature and goals. In a Guardian opinion piece, Cass Moody said such plutocrats should not be the group to have control over political agendas and decide which issues to focus on and how to support them. Now, a writer in the German magazine Cicero saw the situation as academic, cultural, media, and economic elites grasping for social power while disregarding political decision processes. A materially well-owned milieu, as they say, would in this context try to cement its dominance of opinion and sedate ordinary people with paternalistic social benefits so that they are not disturbed by the common people when they steer. Now the French, Les Echos furthermore concludes that Davos represents the exact values people rejected at the ballot box. The World Economic Forum's Global Redesign Report suggests to create public-private United Nations, in which selected agencies operate and steer global agendas under shared, governance and even governance systems. It says that the globalized world is probably best managed by a coalition of multinational corporations, governments, and civil society organizations. No, not you. Civil society organizations, which it expresses through initiatives like the Great Reset and the Global Redesign, now called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. In 2017, there was an interview. Klaus Schwab said that Russian President Vladimir Putin had been recognized as a young global leader, and also mentioned Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I have to say, when I mention now names like Miss Angela Merkel and even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the world, of the Economic Forum, too. But what we are very proud of, or what Klaus says he is very proud of now, is the young generation like Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Yes, that means we are captured. We penetrate the cabinet. So yesterday, I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of his cabinet, or even more of half of his cabinet, are actually young global leaders for the World Economic Forum. Schwab added, in September 2019, more than 400 civil society organizations and 40 international networks heavily criticized a partnership agreement between the WEF and the United Nations, then called on the UN Secretary General to end it. They see such an agreement as, a disturbing corporate capture of the UN, which has moved the world dangerously, and I mean dangerously, towards a privatized global governance. The Dutch Transnational Institute think tank summarizes that we are increasingly entering a world where gatherings such as Davos are a silent global coup d'etat to capture governance. In December of 2021, the Dutch government published its past correspondence with representatives of the World Economic Forum, showing extensive influence of the WEF on matters of Dutch policies, as well as the documents which, among others, called for, the Netherlands to take the lead in implementing the Great Reset, were officially made and available by the Dutch. Now, in 2019, a Swiss newspaper, WOZ, received a refusal of its accreditation request for the annual meeting with the editors, and subsequently accused the World Economic Forum of favoring specific media outlets. The newspaper highlighted that the WEF stated in its refusal message that the forum prefers media outlets it works with throughout the year. Now, WOZ Deputy Head Yves Wegelen called this a strange idea of journalism because, in journalism you don't necessarily have to work with large corporations, but rather critique them, he said. Now, in a December 2020 article by The Intercept, author Naomi Klein described the WEF's initiatives, like the Great Reset, were simply a coronavirus-themed rebranding of things that the WEF was already doing, and that it was an attempt by the rich to make themselves look good. In her opinion, the Great Reset is merely the latest edition of this gilded tradition. barely distinguishable from earlier Davos big ideas. Similarly, in this review of COVID-19, the Great Reset, ethicist Stephen Umbrello makes a parallel critique of the agenda. He says that the WEF whitewashes a seemingly optimistic future post-Great Reset with buzzwords like equity and sustainability, while it functionally jeopardizes those goals. A study published in the Journal of Consumer Research investigated the sociological impact of the WEF. It concluded that the WEF do not solve issues such as poverty, global warming, or even chronic illness, or debt. The forum has, according to the study, simply shifted the burden for the solution of these problems from governments and businesses to responsible consumer subjects. Now, the green consumer, the health-conscious consumer, and the financially literate consumer. Now, while the WEF Davos meetings are one way for these global leaders to come together, the Bilderberg meeting, also known as the Bilderberg Group, is an annual conference as well. It was established back in 1954. But I'll tell you, that's for another day, and it goes deep too. There is much more to this story. Part 2 is in the works, so stay tuned. And thanks for watching. This is Wake Up Canada News. I'm Brad Wilder.